What's up? It's Timbs, and I got a game of Gideon in the mid lane to show you how you can play this role for absolute beginners. I'm talking about the people who are very inexperienced at MOBAs or have never touched a MOBA before and you're just looking for some extra guidance. Let's get started. Once matchmaking finds 9 other players for you to play with, you'll be taken to what you're looking at here, which is a role select screen. This is the time for everyone to select and lock in their desired roles. It's important that you respect draft etiquette. That means if someone above you in the draft locks in the role you wanted to play, you're just going to have to pick from the other roles because 2 people can't play one role. So as I mentioned earlier, today we're going to be playing Gideon in the mid lane. So we select him, wait for our turn in the draft. It goes back and forth. Once we get to the bottom, we click lock in and then brings us into a game. As you load into the game, you're going to be greeted with a screen known as the aspect select screen. Everyone at the beginning of every single game of Fault gets to choose 2 different aspects. Aspects augment your hero in a various combination of different ways, so you gotta make sure you choose the right one. You don't want to choose aspects made for support when you're playing a caster, and vice versa. Gideon's a hero with very strong abilities that focus on burst damage and large AoEs, so that means we're going to be using a lot of abilities, and that means we're going to be using a lot of mana. So we want aspects to help with our mana consumption, and we want aspects that boost our damage from our abilities. So what do we choose? We choose Magician for the extra mana regen, and we choose Warlock for the extra damage on our ability usages. Now, when you get into the game, it's a 3D MOBA, so you gotta use WASD to move, spacebar to jump, and your left click to use your auto attack. At the beginning of every game, you want to press I on your keyboard to open up your item shop. You want to buy some items. Because we're playing Gideon in the mid lane, we're going to want that Titan spellbook for the energy damage and the mana regen. Doesn't hurt. Lane minions start marching at 1 minute, so you gotta make sure you're out of the base before that. It's an unwritten rule for laners next to the buff that the jungler is doing at the start of the game. It's an unwritten rule for the laners to come into the jungle and lend the jungler a hand in killing the buff. This process of laners coming into the jungler, lending their jungler a hand, is known as leashing. Whether the jungler is going for their red buff or very uncommonly their blue buff, as the mid laner, you're going to be next to that lane regardless to whatever buff they go to. So it's really important you just go to the jungler, lend them a hand, just spare a couple of auto attacks and get it low. That way they can be doing the jungle routes in a timely manner. I would say you should get it down to maybe 1,000 health or so before you head back to your lane. As you're walking back into your lane, you want to make sure you have an ability unlocked. I'll be unlocking my Void Breach first on my right mouse button, or more commonly referred to as R&B. That way we can do some good damage from a longer range. As a laner, like the off lane and the carry in the duo lane, you gotta make sure you're landing those killing blows so you can secure gold. Most starter items have quests that you can complete to evolve your starter item into a slightly stronger iteration of itself. Our Titan spellbook evolves when we damage an enemy hero with an ability. If you do that 10 times, you get a stronger Titan spellbook called a Titan's Grimoire. Because we're playing in the mid lane, it's really important we know what's going on around our lane. So we place vision items called stealth emblems to ping enemies who walk through that designated radius. As the mid laner, you really gotta make sure you remember to place these wards, simply because if you don't, the enemy jungler is going to remind you why you should. As the mid laner, it's really important you ping when your enemy leaves the lane. This is to protect your allies in other lanes from getting ambushed by your enemy mid laner. Even if it looks like they're just going to ward, if they step out of the lane, just be safe rather than sorry and ping that they're missing. You can use the ping system by pressing C on your keyboard and then choosing whatever commands you would like to use. enemies missing is dragging your mouse to the right and then you drag it to the top. It's a very, very, very good habit to get into, to just keep a general track of where your jungler is going and where they are on the map. So that way, if they want to roam to your lane to try and attack your enemy mid laner, you're, you know, you're on top of things. That way you can give them a hand and make it a 2v1 situation. Because me and Countess are literally heavy duty gamers, we gotta kill on Morgesh, so that way we're free to push this lane up and go to another part of the map, or just do anything with a little bit of downtime that we have. But before you go out and do something else, you have to make sure you push your lane up. Simply because when you push your lane up, you're doing a couple things. You're denying the enemy mid laner from last hitting those minions because they die to the tower. And secondly, it buys yourself a little bit of time, so that way if they want to shove their wave under your tower, they have to take a little more time to do it. This gives you a little more time to do other things like take the blue buff shrines, or if you want to recall and spend gold, you gotta make sure you shove your lane up so that you have the time to do it. Once you've accumulated a bit of gold and you want to spend it to grow stronger, you should probably first go back to your tower because it's a safe haven. Secondly, you press B and you start your recall. Because you're playing in the mid lane, you really want to make sure you buy some movement speed boots first. And I know all types of boots are movement speed, but you want to make sure you're buying the blue boots in particular. Their proper name is Warlock Wears, but I like blue boots better. It rolls off the tongue a little bit better. Blue boots gives you 100 move speed, which is good because as a mid laner you're going to be rotating a lot, but it also gives 15 energy penetration, which is also really good for making our abilities do more damage. Now what we're going to do is we're going to shove our wave up, and then we're going to ping enemies missing where we think that mid laner might have gone, and then we're going to rotate maybe to that side of the map, or we're going to try and do something important with this downtime that we have. Sometimes it does happen, you come back to lane, you ping enemies missing, but the damage is already done, but we can try and make good out of a bad situation. So we're going to the right lane, and we're going to clear out this wave so that the right lane tier 1 tower doesn't take too much damage. Be courteous of your teammates, don't take their minions from them. They need gold just like you. So once you're done protecting their tower, leave their wave for them so that they can farm the gold and then make your way back to the mid lane. Or if it's already pushed up, just give it a little extra shove and then keep rotating onto other parts of the map. I know sometimes you can be greedy for those extra small last hits, but if you're going to do that, make sure you have a little bit of extra mana in the tank for your escape. Because if you don't, you're probably going to get murked by some of these junglers. Just make sure you have mana for your escape. It can save your life. The first genuine legendary item that we're going to be building is going to be mana focus, and the component that we're going to buy is going to be the mana shard. This is an amazing item for Gideon because it gives you maximum mana simply for last hitting minions. And this is really, really good because if you have a lot of mana, you can use a lot of abilities. I won't get too deep into explaining how the item trees work and how you can buy items and navigate about buying items. I'll just link Mangoose's video down below because he goes far, far deeper into detail rather than I would like to here. So we leave Morgesh with a little parting gift, and then we make our way to the left lane to try and make some moves. We ping our intentions so that our team can be on the same page, and we make sure we go on the back side, not through the front, because we don't want to show on any wards. We got to be sneaky. We hear Kalari flipping through the back door, and we plant 2 clean ass throws on her, and we pick up ourselves an assist. Now, what do we do with that momentum that we've gained after killing the enemy jungler? For the next 10 seconds, it's a 5v4. This was my own personal mistake, and I should have been next to Countess there to collapse on that Morgesh. but it's alright. We make mistakes and we learn from them, and we make the best out of a bad situation. What do? Fall back on old reliable. We push our wave and we go make some more moves. We're making our way towards the duo lane because we see the enemy duo lane pushed up a little too far. Let's see if we can punish their mistakes by being out of position. Now the key to good mid lane rotations is using these back doors so you can catch them by surprise. Sometimes you just gotta wait a little bit. Make sure your team's on the right page before you just barge in there. We land a good Void Breach, we land a good Cosmic Rift. We get right in the middle of them to catch them both in our ultimate. And it looks like we just might be able to clean it up with a clean Cosmic Rift. Getting ourselves 270 doubloons. Now after we get those glorious doubloons, we gotta make our way out of this lane because we're not in the duo lane. We're the mid laner. So we gotta make sure we get a good recall under the tower and we head back to the mid lane so we can check up on our own lane. Can't overstay in the lane. But sometimes when you recall, if you notice, we only have 430 gold. The next component we want to buy is 450 gold. So sometimes it's worth waiting just to make sure you get a really good use out of that sitting gold you have on you. Gotta make sure you squeeze out all your doubloons for maximum damage. So we just finished pushing our wave up, and now we're going to see what we can do in this duo lane again. We've got some low health people over there, and some people pushing up a little too far again. On our way, we make sure we drop a vision ward on the raptor pit, just so we can get some good information of what's going on around there. Countess just placed a radiant pulse ward, which is a variant of the stealth ward we have. The radiant pulse ward is something you place and it reveals enemy wards for 10 seconds. So we help to de-ward one of the enemy wards, denying their own vision. That way we can roam a little more freely without them knowing where we are. A good habit to get into as a mid laner is just to try and support the ideas your jungler has. You guys really want to work together to try and make some plays on the map. She wanted to do raptors, so guess what I did? I hung around and gave her a hand with the raptors. More often than not, if you try and say, oh, that's a dumb idea, I'm not doing that, you're probably going to lose more games than if you're just like, I don't really agree, but I'm going to give you the numbers advantage, so this probably works out a little better. My lane is pushed up, so I'm heading over to the off lane because I see this Kwang is out of mana. I'm being extra cautious because this Kalar is in her jungle, but I ping that my ultimate is ready and my Mortgage goes in. I land 3 rocks on this Kwang, a good ultimate, and we pick up the kill. Because this Kwang is dead, we're free to push this wave under the tower and take it down. Towers give extremely high amounts of gold to whoever's in the radius when it goes down. I'm talking like 600 gold. Unfortunately, this Kalari ults me from her jungle and we have to back off. It's still cool though, you don't want to overstay when you don't think you can make a play, so we cut our losses and recall and we spend our hard-earned war spoils. We finish buying the Mana Focus, which is a pretty big power spike for Gideon, and we pick up 2 Sentry Wards. Sentry Wards are a type of vision item that places a ward that, like the stealth emblem we have, the little purple thing that places whenever we press G, Sentry Wards are permanent. When you place them, they do not go away with time. The only way to get rid of them is if an enemy hits them 4 times. Anything that shows up in the Sentry Wards radius is revealed. Stealth wards, radiant pulse wards, other Sentry Wards, enemy heroes, it's all revealed. We're hanging on to them because it's important to place them at the right spots and not willy-nilly, but we're gonna get to it. I'm hanging around this brick wall here just to see if I can make some plays, but I don't want to overstay. They're under their tower. It's really not worth going in, especially when it's just Greystone there. So I just go back to this blue shrine, I hit it with a couple asteroids, and I just get back to pushing my lane. So we finished pushing our lane here, and then we're going back into our allied jungle so we can place these Sentry Wards. Like I said, gotta make sure you're placing them in really crucial spots. So, oh, excuse me. We placed the first one here so we know what's going on in this left side jungle. It's very important in case enemy Kallari is trying to sneak some of my junglers' camps. I gotta know what's going on in there in case I need to go over there when I need to. So I shoved up my mid lane wave a little bit more, and we're going over to our red side jungle to do kind of the same thing. Placing the Sentry Ward so anyone who's coming into this jungle from maybe the Raptor pit, we make sure we get a good eye on who's coming through there. That way, in case I need to rotate into that jungle, or maybe back up because someone's lurking right over there, make sure we know what's going on, and we make sure we know it fast. Can't really be thinking about where everyone is all the time. My wave is sitting directly in the middle of the mid lanes, which is fine. And my team is grouping around Raptors, so I'm rotating just to see if they might need me. It's better to just rotate to what the majority of your team is doing as the mid laner versus just saying, I don't like that, I'm just going to farm my wave. My team was able to get the Raptors. They didn't really need me, but it's cool. That's what you're supposed to do as the mid laner. Influence other parts of the map. Push your lane and then rotate. That's what I did, and even though I didn't really contribute much there, my presence might have been useful. My mid lane wave is sitting in the middle of my lane, which is fine. So I rotate to the off lane to see if I can help my Mortgage get this off lane tier 1 tower down. It gives a lot of gold, and I want to help her get out of this laning phase. So we shove this wave under the tower, and I think we're able to get it down. This Kallari ambushes me with her invisibility, and because I had my Torrent space up like a complete goofball, I was late on using my ultimate, and I run into zigzags like a straight comic book character, but Kallari eventually catches me, and she sends me straight back to the base. It's kind of tough, but we got the tower down, which is probably a plus in the long term, because Mortgage is going to be able to rotate, and that's going to be huge for map presence. So our jungler died to the Kallari afterwards, so we're going to have to rotate off lane, see if we can clean up here. And you guys know how we roll. We got to pick up that 600 bounty right there. And we got to get this Kwong too, because he's running away. He thinks he can get away from the astronaut. It's just not how it works, my boy. Gotta get him a clean R&B, send him back to the base too. You know how it goes. When you play the astronaut, that's just what you do, you know what I'm saying? But we pick up that double kill. And what do? Because this left side of the map is empty. We gotta see what we can take away from the enemy team. Gotta take their jungle. Gideon's not a jungler, but we gotta do what you can get away with. Normally, you wouldn't do this in the early game. But since we have a little bit of energy damage, we can take those jungle camps pretty easily. This Mortgage as well, she's a little too pushed up. So what do? We roll up on her, pop our ultimate, and we get a straight 150 gold assist. That's what you gotta be doing as a mid laner. You gotta see what you can take away from the enemy team on other parts of the map. We push our mid wave up, we go back to our tower, and we recall when we spend our hard-earned gold. That's what we do, you know what I mean? So we're buying an apocalyptic affinity here, which is going to be pretty good for us when it comes to just raw damage. It's got energy penetration, energy power, and our abilities are going to hit harder for low health enemies. Just overall good item. When in doubt, you want to buy this item. Ooh, hold on. So we just shoved our mid wave up, and then we placed a good vision ward in the enemy jungle, so we have a little bit of an idea of who is where. We hear Kallari in the enemy jungle, and we see that she's right here based on our audio cues. We just pop the ult straight away just to make sure she can't get too far. Now her invisibility doesn't last too long, so you want to chase her just a little bit. That way you can just clean her up real nice. It used to be in the past that she gets really long invisibility, but if you think she's low health and she just popped her invisibility, you can chase her just for a little bit because it's going to wear out pretty soon. My mid lane wave is pretty far pushed up, and I noticed that the enemy dual lane is pretty low health, so I'm going to see what I can make over here. I kind of fumbled my first rock there, so my passive doesn't proc, but it's alright, it happens. Sometimes you make mistakes. So I'm going to wait just a little bit to see what I can do over here, just because my mid lane wave is so far pushed up. We're going to pick up Bellica because my rocks do hella damage. And we pick up Twin Blast too just because we have a raw numbers advantage. This is what comes when you just are ahead as a mid laner. Your influence on other places of the map gets massively amplified, but the same thing can happen in reverse. If you're pretty behind and they're ahead, it's the inverse effect. Your other teammates are going to feel the wrath of the enemy mid laner. So this is a really high stakes role. I'm heading back to my mid lane wave to push it up when I hear the enemy Kalari in her jungle. I ping follow me, so my allied Morgash gets the idea, and I pop my ult, but she manages to slip out before it does some damage. Morgash gets caught by the Kalari, but I managed to chunk the enemy Kalari anyways.
An enemy has been slain.
It's alright, stuff like that happens. Get a 1-for-1 trade, but you don't want the Morgash's death to be in vain. You gotta make sure you take something away from the enemy team. So I push my wave up and I head into the enemy jungle to see if there are any jungle camps I can take away. Looks like this one's about to respawn, so what do? I clear it out. Just make sure the enemy Kalari, when she responds, she's not able to farm. Always gotta take something away from the enemy team whenever they die. So again, as the mid laner, you really just want to support your team's ideas, but especially your junglers. This Countess looks like she wants to ambush this team sitting under tower here, and as the mid laner, I gotta back her up. Steel Land's a pretty huge ult, so I'm gonna go in here, see if I can find a good time for my ultimate, and I just waddle my way into the back line, and I pop my ult simply to get shut down by the Bellica. The ability execution comes with experience, but knowing what to do is something you can build with just good knowledge. My team was at that right lane. What was I doing? Supporting my team. I wasn't pushing my mid lane wave. I wasn't over in left lane farming jungle. I was there with my team, because as the mid laner, you gotta play around your team. So my team made its way back to this tier 2 tower. We had a little bit of a scrap earlier, but we took 3 of theirs while they took 2 of ours. So I'm going to make sure my team gets this tier 2 tower. When this happens, and it's the 3 of you versus the 5 of them, because if you notice, Bellica's respawning and Morgash is soon to be respawning as well, you just want to back off. You're not going to be able to win a fight, especially when it's just 1 ranged hero and 2 melee heroes. So you cut your losses and you head out. So my team has conglomerated around the right side of the map once again. And what am I doing? I'm right here with my jungler, trying to see if I can support any play she's trying to make. Because one Countess making a play can go sour. But a Countess and a Gideon making a play is far less likely to go sour, because that's a lot of bursts. But in any matter, whatever jungler it is, the main laner should really just gravitate towards them. So we're able to take this tier 2 tower pretty easily. They kind of just let us have it.
Enemy tower destroyed.
So my jungler's not going in, so what am I doing? I'm just backing off. I'm not going to be the one to really make plays. I'm too squishy. I'm a Gideon. I got to support plays that have been made by my jungler. That's my job. I'm not a tanky hero. I can't tank shots. What I can do is put up a lot of damage over a fat AoE. So my team is trying to make a play on this Quang in the left lane. Doesn't really pan out. But considering how my team is still here, it's not like I'm just going to start farming jungle on the right side or something. I got to stick around because if your jungler is trying to make a play somewhere, as the mid laner, you should be the one to back him up. So Steel goes in. I got to get in there with them. Got to land my ult as many people as I can. And I back off once Steel backs off as well. Team's not feeling it anymore, so I back off as well. It's no longer me trying to make solo plays anymore. I'm harping on this point a lot because I don't want you to go out and try and make plays by yourself. You got to work in tandem with your team to try and get these plays together. If you're the jungler, if you're the mid laner, you guys really got to be a two-man team. Whatever your support's doing, whatever your dual lane's doing, whatever your off lane's doing, that's them. But you and your jungler should really be together in this late game phase. I skipped ahead a considerable amount. It's 43 minutes in. I got a few pretty hefty items. And we're sieging this right lane inhibitor when this Kalari sneaks up on me. And in a situation like this, you just want to make sure you kit dump. Sometimes you're not going to be able to pop your ultimate off at the right spot. If you're a gadget and you're getting ambushed, just get your ult out. If you're a Gideon and you're getting ambushed, get your ult out. If you're a Bellica and you're getting ambushed, get your ult out. Sometimes it's better to use it in a poor spot than to not use it at all. But that's only if you feel like you're gonna die. Sometimes bad ultimates happen, but it might just tip the scales into you killing someone, which will lead to you getting an inhibitor like what happened here. Now obviously the team is kind of in shambles. We're not going to be able to end with no minions to tank the core. So we kind of just slowly back off here. Kind of get greedy. We overextend. But getting an inhibitor is a big deal. Don't make my mistake that I'm doing here. I'm super dumb. I overstay. I don't get punished too bad for it, but just make sure you don't get fragged. So we are on the left lane, sieging this final inhibitor. And when I say sieging, it basically means wearing out the enemy team over a pretty long period of time. So we're able to get the inhibitor down on this wave. And I see my Greystone frontlining pretty hard. So I get up pretty high in the air to pop my ult on this Kalari. And I get her low enough to take her out with an R&B. Morgesh almost kills me with their combo, but Quang is able to take me out. Even though you die in that situation, you got most of your damage out. You did your job. You know, it's not like you're sitting on a no cooldown ultimate. My team is going to be able to pick up the win here simply because most of them are dead. We have way too many minions under the core, and the game is pretty much over. So that was my attempt at explaining the mid lane role from a beginner perspective. Not necessarily beginner perspective, but for my beginner audience members. Now, I'll say it now, and I didn't say it before, but mid lane is my worst role. I almost never play this role. On top of that, I almost never play Gideon. So go a little easy on me on the comments. Right? Go a little easy. No, I'm just playing. I don't really care. I'm a gamer. But yeah, this is just for my new players, and it should show you the do's and don'ts and the whys, most importantly, of some of the things you should and should not be doing in the mid lane role. Let me know what else you want to see. Other than that, I'll see you guys soon.